it can be not very exciting thing to talk about. They asked me to talk about hospitality because I'm a Serb, okay? And we know how to eat. It's a Mediterranean, Eastern European culture, lots of Middle Eastern influence, and with us, it's everything about food. If we love you, we feed you, and if we love you, we'll give you cholesterol. If you don't go back home with the cholesterol, we haven't done a good work. And everybody's been to my house, and everybody's been in Serbia, and I all feed them well, and we had a great time, entertainment and everything, and that's why you asked me to talk about hospitality. Well, thank you so much, because it gives me opportunity that something I read, it just go deeper into it. What I'm doing right now, I study, I'm doing my master in contextual theology. So I'm learning to read a lot from the different cultures, a lot from the different perspectives, things, and just learn from the whole context of wisdom that exists. So it just gave me opportunity to look hospitality not just from my point of view, of the Western point of view, but actually go from all kind of different perspectives and to find something really interesting that I would love to share with you. Just as you said, the modern hospitality in the West, it's more entertainment. It's when we mention those things, hospitality, we talk about how to serve people well, how to have focus on the people having in our house, and of course, kids needs to behave proper. House needs to be clean, food needs to be ready. It's some kind of social circles that we are familiar. It's our friends. It's people who are close to us in one way or another. The hospitality is also mentioned in a market economy in the West, and it's about kind of oxymoron hospitality industry, which if you say that anywhere of the world, they will say, what are you talking about? Those two words doesn't go together. It can't be industry. It cannot be something mechanic and at the same time being hospitality. If you move and go to the honor and shame cultures, then you figure out what the real hospitality is. Although, even that hospitality is contextualized, okay? So, it is hospitality, but from the certain point of view of the certain culture. And it's still not that right hospitality that we need to adopt as a children of God. So if you go to my culture, it's a friendly, it's a generous reciprocation, it's a entertaining guests, but in a way to be over the top. Okay, from economic perspective, it's totally insufficient, illogical, but it plays the role. It plays the role in honor and shame culture. So hospitality is there that you show your honor, and if you don't present hospitality well, if you don't feel well, if you don't have a table full with food, with so much left behind, it can be in some kind of context of shame. Also, the hospitality, it's one of the tools for a gift exchange. Okay, so we do the favors to one another, feeding one another, and hospitality always shows, that sharing of the food always shows, in my kind of context, that relationship exists. So I always eat food with my neighbors. Okay, how do I know I have a good relationship with my neighbors? We always exchange gifts. And one of the gifts is the gifts of hospitality. So they're always in our house sitting, we're always in their house sitting. And that kind of interchange of hospitality shows that we have a relationship and that we can trust one another, we can lean on one another, and all that kind of stuff. When you talk about Bible in hospitality, it's very interesting. It's very interesting. I just really found one example very interesting that once hospitality prevented the war. So in the second book of Kings, you have a very unusual example of peacemaking. When Prophet Elijah advised kings of Israel to treat Syrian prisoners of war with a meal and send them home. So he had some prisoners of war, and he offered them food and water. And it says when they eat and drink, he sends them back to the master. So he created feast for them, feed them well, and send them back home. And he says that army of Syrians never attack Israel again. And it just used hospitality around the table. I don't know what. Is it to get one another, to try trust one another, to show those people are honorable people, and we will be dishonorable people if we attack honorable people. But that army never attacked them again. So when we talk about biblical hospitality, we need to ask ourselves whose hospitality we're talking about. Okay, because I want to learn from the Bible. Because there is Asian hospitality, there is a Jewish hospitality, there is a Greek hospitality, there is a Roman perspective on hospitality. And all those things you're going to find in the Bible. And they're all different. Jewish hospitality, definitely rooted in the Old Testament, and it's a sociological necessity. So you didn't have a hospitality in any of those times then in the Bible that you have entertainment. Let's call our neighbors and have some food together. You don't have that idea. You have a precious little resource. You don't share them so easily. So the only visitors to who you show hospitality are strangers who are on a way to go somewhere. And you don't take trips very easily in that time. It's dangerous, which means you're on some kind of mission. And on that kind of mission in a dangerous environment to survive, God set up the principle of hospitality that we welcome the stranger and provide what he needs, before he continues. Without strings attached, without asking questions, we just show hospitality to the guests and the strangers, and they can go away on their mission. So it was a sociological necessity to survive a difficult climate and a difficult environment they lived in that time. Even Job in his defense of good life, okay, listing all the sins he has not committed. And special place, he emphasized the practice of hospitality. He says in Job 31:32, no stranger ever had slept outside, my door was always open to the traveler. All those things, but all this list of the things he never done, but the honorable thing he takes aside, it was hospitality. Huge. Greek hospitality. In Greek culture, hospitality was considered as a key institution in the social relationships. In Greece, hospitality was a secret obligation, not a choice. So every stranger, regardless who he is by stature, was believed to be under protection of Zeus. And doing hospitality, you're doing honor to gods. So particularly to the Zeus, who was the god of the guests. So you have that philoxenia, which is the word that's used in the Bible for the hospitality, which means the love for the strangers. So when the stranger comes, whoever that is, again, you don't see them very often. You live in a village, everybody knows one another. In one context or another, from time to time, you have a traveler comes, and he's on your door. So you immediately welcome him. You provide food, you provide clothes, you provide shelter, everything that he needs. You don't ask any questions about identity. You don't ask any question about his background, who he is, until all the aspects of hospitality is fulfilled and shown. So he ate well, he's clean, have a shelter, he probably rest and everything. Now we've done all that. You refresh yourself. Let's talk. Who you are, where you're going, what can I do? But the question is, what can I do for you? Because you definitely have some kind of mission. You definitely some kind of mission. You left security of your place where you live. Nobody does that. Security is a number. Security is surrounded with the people that you know in that time, with your clan, with your family. If you are going somewhere, you're in a danger because nobody can survive on your own. I'm going to be your supplement family right now. I'm going to provide shelter. I'm going to provide food. I'm providing assistance for you. What do you need? And usually in the the Greek culture, some kind of token will be broken, In early stage, it was a bone broken in half. And one piece of bone will take the host, the other one will take the foreigner, the traveler. So if the host is ever in situation that he needs to travel in direction of the guests, he can find that family, and show, look, I show you hospitality once, can you show me the same hospitality I showed to you? Or it is also, how do you say, inherited, so your children also can do that. Later on, it becomes some kind of clay token, some kind of, you can find those in archaeology, you can find those things. It's a kind of animal that's broken, made from clay, broken in half, and you put together, get one piece. So it was, again, it was serving gods. It was the duty, it was the moral thing, it was a huge obligation that needs to be done. There was the rules you do as a host, there is the rules you do as a guest, and to not show hospitality was a huge thing. It was you can risk divine punishment and stuff like that. So it was a huge thing, but again, it was the necessity, it was the moral duty. It didn't have that feeling that you had later on in a Christian church. Roman hospitality, slowly hospitality becomes less about generosity and more calculated benefits. So in the Roman culture, very strong on a patronage, very strong on a patron benefactor who is able to provide for the people, for the clients, and providing hospitality. You always think about to your social equals who can help you later on in something. It's not so much the secret duty, how much is a legal contract that's tied in that kind of system. So hosts provide protection, lodging, but they start choosing now to who we're going to do that. It's not everybody anymore. You go for your status, for the people that you can have some kind of benefits later on. So it's not like a hospitality we know today at all. It was something totally different. And again, at that time, they also had a handshake, and they had a tabula hospitalis. Okay, so they adopt this thing from the Greeks when they also have a token. They have a tabula hospitalis, also token that they will break. Tessera hospitalis, they will have a written statement on a clay that this family helps that family. We have a special bonds that are going to last with our children and their children and the children after them, showing that I can count on you for your help. And all that is in the context of hospitality. Nothing how we know today, particularly if you're coming from the West. If you come a little bit from my part of the world, you get understanding of that. In a cultures which are collective, where people for survival depends of other people, you have this kind of interactions and this kind of hospitality. When you come to the New Testament, you have a different things. And I'm not going to stay long in the New Testament. And the reason I'm not going to stay long in the New Testament is because first Christians, when they experienced God, they contextualized their hospitality for their culture. So their culture gives some good things, okay, on who they could build their hospitality. But in the same time, there was a lot of things in their culture around them who treat hospitality in a certain way. They think this is wrong, this is not okay. You should not show hospitality just to the people who are like you. You should invite other people to come to you. You should mix and show hospitality, love and care for the people who are in a different status than you. We love that hospitality is to taking care of needs, okay? Not just entertainment, but actually it's protection, it's taking care, it's sharing resources for a greater good. We love that. We're going to use that. But we don't like certain things, and we're going to change those things. And that's what you can find in the Bible all the time. They call them the third race of people. I can't remember who said that, but they call Christians, they are the third race of people. We understand the first race of people, and they help only to themselves and the ones who are like them. And we understand the second race of people, that just helping the ones who are like that. But these guys, they have first and second together with them. And they're all different stages, different social status, different race, man and female, all together. And somehow they're helping everybody, and they can function as a body, as a one. They're nothing like we've seen. They're totally different. They're the third race of people. So you have a Peter, comes to Joppa, and for many days. And he stayed with Simon the tanner, the ones who works with the animal skin. And then you have a Jew who come in Joppa, where many believes in Lord, says the verse 42, Acts 9. And he decide to stay with the tanner, which the Jewish person will never do that. You don't stay with somebody who can defile you. But he decide from all this good option he has, culturally super accepted, to stay the one who is totally anti-cultural, totally different, probably to make certain point. And that makes you think about us and our hospitality when we go there. Do we stay only with the people we feel comfortable, or we actually, enjoying hospitality of the people that our nations around says you should not mix with them? So I have a lot of Roma friends, okay? And in my culture, in the Balkans, everywhere, the Romas like a second-grade citizens. But I just love sharing food with them. And I love taking them to all the public places together where people looks a little bit suspicious. But we share food together. And I love eating at their house, and they're coming to my house. It's my choice to do something like, I feel weird sometimes, to be honest, okay? But I go against that because I know this is something which is planted in me deeply culturally, but I'll go against that, and I spend time with them and show them the honor. It's the same thing with Lydia, with the jailer in Philippi. It's the same thing. You have a rich merchandise Lydia who will just mix with their own class. But somehow now she starts welcoming Jewish missionaries coming to her house. You have the jail keeper, who is a big state position. It's no small thing. And he's welcoming all these ex-prisoners, Jews, into her house, which is something unseen. So those things are happening again and again and again. It's welcoming the poor, welcoming the sick. They practice hospitality as discipleship. They use it in so many ways. Early Christians and the church planters like Paul and Peter will welcome us as guests into people's house without having any need for them, any kind of benefits from them, just to serve them and to go. Early church meeting people's homes, that was unseen things. If you have a big feast, because you want to achieve something. You want to treat people well, so you can ask them for a favor. But having just opening your house and having a people in a house is not exactly how life functioned in that time. And providing meals, agape meals and everything, is not exactly something that was seen in that time. That's why they got the Romans were so shocked when they seen stuff like that. So Roman Emperor Julian the Apostate in 361, he wrote, those impious Galatians, not only feed their own poor. Okay, so just that thing, feeding their own poor, it's cross-cultural, it's unseen, but ours also. So they're welcoming into their own agape. They attract them as children attracted with the cakes. So they're showing hospitality to a pagan poor, and they are so jealous. They say, they're attracted. I'll just attract them, with as a kids with the cakes. See their love feast and their table spreads for an indigent. Such practice is common among them and cause a contempt for our gods. So they've seen something which is in the area of hospitality that was unseen, unknown. And then you have a 4th century when Christian faith-based hospitality slowly start becoming institutionalized hospitality and slowly start getting lost. And today we are in our modern way of understanding what is hospitality. So what do I learn here? And what do I do for me, Serb, in 21st century, with our cultural understanding of hospitality, for whom my Western friend says is the best hospitality ever? Shall I say, wow, great, excellent, let's do it more? Or there is something I can learn? And where do I learn is the question. If I look in the Bible, in the places I just told you, I see different things. And I see the hospitality took the shape to adjust to the culture and the cultural needs in that time. So the context and the culture shape how hospitality looks in that time. It is always love for the stranger, but it had sociological necessity to survive. It had some kind of serving God with the fear if we don't do it proper, God is going to punish us. This is a mutual helps and a benefits. So I just provide a great food and everything else because I have some benefits. Or there is something different. So where do I go to look those things? So I decided to go way deeper than that. Before every culture existed. Okay? And see, can I learn something from that? And that is a God hospitality towards us before anything existed. And then when you go there, you see something which I never seen before, to be honest. Okay? If you go in a book in Genesis and creation, and you go in Adam's garden, how do you call it? You know, you see something different. So first thing what I say is that in the beginning, when God was creating everything, God decided, okay, nothing exists. A new humankind. He starts everything from zero. First introductions of God through visible and invisible principalities, everything that exists, is He decided to present Himself as a welcoming host. And I think that's amazing. His hospitality is, let me introduce myself to you through my welcoming, through my hospitality. And it serves as His visit card. Okay? Into the new world, unseen, came energy. Okay? A matter, light, dark, flesh, spirit. And like a host, He arranged everything before guests arrived. It's amazing. He could stand there and says, look at my glory. Say that. Look at my possessions. Look at my creativity. Look at my car. Look at my big swimming pool. Look at who am I, what I achieved. Look at my Rolex. He can do that. But He didn't. He decided to present Himself as a host, sharing resources with the strangers, us. Preparing everything for us to come in His house. Open the house and says, welcome my guests. This is all for you. My hospitality, my welcoming is going to show you who am I. Not just a display of the things, but my social interaction with you through sharing the resources I have is going to show you who am I. Amazing. So this primordial welcome set up stage for all acts of hospitality to follow, embedding the praxis so deep in the fabric of creation itself. So now I go there, okay, in Eden with God as a host and says, God, teach me about hospitality. So I can know from the original source how to contextualize hospitality in my culture. Just like the Jews did for them, sociological, the necessity to survive in other cultures and other cultures and other cultures. I go there. So not copy-paste something which is not mine thing. Of course, I can learn a lot from the first church, just like a first church contextualize hospitality for their needs. And I learn some stuff for them. But I go to God and says, God, teach me what to do. So in East, if you go, a man's fame is spread by means of his stable and lavish hospitality rather than his possessions. And that is so much true. Me and my friends, when we talk, have a social time, a memory always taking us back to the great meals we had together and the great hospitality and the great fun. And we have a word for that. It's called merak. Okay? which means good time with friends around the table. And we'll live for that. Seriously, we'll live for that. We will not have money to pay bills, but you gotta have money to sit around the table and have a lavish meal and drink with the friends. And we collect those memories, and we're just remembering them all the time. And when somebody hosts us in that way, we remember that person, in a positive sign. We give them honor again. So strangers and neighbors alike discuss tables where they were being guests. Such a tale spreads from one town to another and handing down from one generation to another. There is stories, we have a national stories that we know about the people who know how to live that merak, who sells, the national heroes, the idiots, who sells everything what they have so they can spend one night hosting their friends in the best possible way. I just want to tell you culturally how different it is. And God knows that. And God prepared the best possible welcome and the best possible hospitality, the best possible table with the best possible resources. And through that, He wants to show I'm an honorable host. This is who am I. And you're going to understand that. Because you know what is it when you go at the table of the rich man who serves you well and gives you everything. Doesn't ask who you are. He shows you hospitality in the first place. And then asks you now, what is your mission and how can I help you? I mean, that is a great picture of God. And God decided from beginning of everything existing to present Himself in that kind of way. It tells us a lot about the host. So now I ask myself, okay, so if God decided to introduce Himself to humankind through the act of hospitality, and that was His message, a visit card, the best way to reach the world, okay, is through hospitality in the name of Father. So just like He lavish hospitality showed to the strangers, to the strangers of this world, the best way of reaching them out is to lavish hospitality in His name. So when I show me as an individual Christian or we as a church a lavish hospitality to the strangers and the ones who are not acceptable in the world, and all that not in the name of Vlada, but in a family name. I'm the son of the Father. I want to show you. If Son is like this, can you imagine how Father is? Look at the hospitality of the family name. Look how honorable this host is. Hospitality shows that character of the host, and it's that hospitality function of the moment of revelation. And that is such an important thing, guys. I can't stress it more. When we teach about cross-cultural mission and all that, we teach it right, but in the wrong order, if I can say like that. We usually teach some kind of principes, and we teach there is a different cultures and everything else. Now you know the principes, apply them in your life and stuff like that. It doesn't work like that, okay? The cross-cultural mission is to sit around the table with somebody, and it's going to reveal everything. And when you enter the foreign country, that's what you're going to do straight away. You're not going to have a time to think about the principles. Oh, how shall I apply this? No, you got to learn how to be the honorable guests. You know, learn how to be the honorable hosts, because those things reveal things. And there is a great example of that in Odysseus. When in Odyssey, Odysseus is returning home after a long journey. He hasn't been, decades and decades back home. And he doesn't know what he's going to find in his birthplace. So he disguised himself in a dirty beggar. And he entered his town. And he entered in his home where different people lives now. And when those people had a feast. And those people, they told him actually, he went there to learn. The Odyssey says, he went there to learn which people are righteous and which one unrighteous. And when he went to them, when those people saw him, they said, what malicious God has sent this plague to spoil our feast. Take yourself away from my table. You are simply a bold, buzzing beggar. Instead of welcome him, he despised Odyssey. And how opposite is that to Paul? Okay? Paul who says to Galatians, and even through my illness was trial for you. Okay, I don't know what kind of illness, but there was they've been kind of afraid of his illness. You did not treat me with contempt or scorn. Instead, you welcomed me as I were the angel of God, as our Christ Jesus himself. Totally different and beautifully contextualized. He speaks to the people who knows that the welcoming stranger is the welcoming God. And he used that to contextualize the welcoming and the hospitality. So it reveals, it just reveals who is righteous, who is unrighteous. Reveals, expose the true person's heart. And that's why the hospitality of God exposed. It's a beautiful revelation. Who are the guests? Who are the guests? The creation story welcomes humanity as strangers in a new world. And that's a beautiful thing. It reminds us that welcoming the strangers is for no other reason than to see the other as a part of one family. And creation story doesn't just describe a beautiful world. Every detail of that world is abundant with food, abundant with water, abundant with shelter. And God as the ultimate host ensured that humanity's needs were met before they even knew to ask. He was there, every single need. And hospitality is that secret act of opening up a care for others. Hospitality is caring about other people. And this is where we need to be humble and learn from our Catholic brothers, Jesuits, because they talk about the cura personalities, which is a Latin phrase to care for a whole person, and emphasize that this holistic approach to human dignity, addressing not just the physical needs, but emotions, intellect, spiritual well-being. So God created the atmosphere in which He can care for a whole being of the person. And our hospitality is not just to do some duty, not just as a pastor I need to welcome some new family in the church. It's not just that. It's actually creating the atmosphere in which these people can open themselves and you can care for a whole body, the whole being. Hospitality needs to be done in that kind of way that disarm people. And then you can see how can you care for them. We can do that. The first church did that, which means that hospitality creates space for transformation. Garden of Eden, it's place for the strangers to become friends. Okay? So you have strangers, God, and new humankind. We haven't met before. Yeah, I'll just create you. Let's walk together. They walk together in the cool of the day. All the worldly distractions fade away, the new things happening. Hospitality, what hospitality does, just like a hospitality gives you revelation who the host is. Honorable host. Who doesn't ask me who you are or have any benefits from you. I feed you and I care for you the first time. And now when you're fed very well, I ask you, what is your mission in life? And what can I do for you? And I broke token with you and says, okay, you can count on me. I'm with you forever. It does for the host that honor. For the guest, okay, it transforms his identity. Because the guest in that time, it's always somebody who left his identity. I left my tribe. I know who am I there. It's very obvious. But now I'm on a road and I'm lost and I'm a foreigner. And I don't have that identity as I had before. And host and guests, in essence, through hospitality becomes the new person. Communicating, sharing bread, forms that relationship between the people. This is particularly true when hospitality extended to outsiders and strangers. The guests, the traveler outside is a person without social identity. The unknown outside a primal social group. But hospitality function to reincorporate that person into a new local community. And you definitely go having that with all these people who leave their countries that they come. And when you introduce the beautiful hospitality to them, they suddenly start feeling, now I know where I belong. Now I start creating that new identity again. I have connections because it's everything about connect. I have connections again. And those connections talks to me. And look, this wonderful host received me like his best friend. Well, that is a good for my identity. And it's a good to have a host like that. And then transformations happening. Because just like in Garden of Eden, Adam and Eve start their life by walking naked. When you do the transformational hospitality proper, well, how do I say this? Doesn't sound weird, you know. People open themselves to you. Open up themselves to you. That is what you want, okay? Because our memory is that there was once time when I can be known fully who am I. I don't need to hide anything. And I was loved and accepted. But then sin came in my life, and I start mask myself with all kind of things to be acceptable to people with the fear. If they know who am I, they're never going to receive me. So I cover myself with the things they want so they can receive me. The only way to be loved is to have all these masks. But I'm eager to be naked again. For somebody to know me, who am I, and love me, accept me. That is transformational hospitality. Let me tell you something. We did that in Ish. We did that in Ish. I'm so proud because the beautiful thing, you can extend the Garden of Eden, something that God started. Now our job is the Garden of Eden to extend to our homes, to our churches, to our places, to create that kind of Garden of Eden transformational hospitality where people can disarm themselves. So we create that kind of friendships in the church, where everything what we do. I mean, I could talk a lot about that, but I understood that my culture is the collective culture. And the individualistic approach to reaching people is not going to work. You know, the Western is more kind of believe, behave, belong. You preach the gospel, people believe. You take them to some kind of discipleship, it's kind of behave. You take them to the membership course, they belong to the church. That's never going to work with us. You know, I had a nice burnout because I was believing that's going to work. For us, it's you create community in the first place. You create welcoming, hospitable community in the first place when anybody can belong. And then you look what's happening. When people start feeling the welcoming of Eden, and they start transforming slowly, and they come to that moment, because in Serbia, everybody feels shame. Okay, that's the main feeling we have. And shame is not like a guilt. Guilt, you can do something with the guilt. Guilt you heal because you've done something wrong, now you do the right thing about that. And you can do something and stop having the feeling of guilt because you repent or pay the due or something, and you feel. With shame you can't do anything. Because shame is always in the eyes of other people, how other people see me. They know my shame. They know who am I. It's always in the eyes of other people, and you can't do anything. So the only way you can get rid of people of shame is get them to the place to open themselves and receive, I know you. You're just like a naked in front of me. I know everything about you, but I love you and I accept you. And that's a transformational hospitality that changed those people. That's what we do. That's what we do in Ish. We've redone everything. With us, it's everything about hospitality. Creating that kind of atmosphere in church, creating that kind of atmosphere with our friends, people. We have so many young people coming to everything else except Sunday service. But in that kind of place, it's a Garden of Eden. And why they're coming to us and they say to us, listen, I gotta tell you something. You know, I haven't said this to anybody, you know, but somehow I believe I can tell you, I believe you more than my brother. And then they share something, which is something they hide, knowing if people knows they're going to judge me because of this. And then you embrace them, you love them, you receive them. And that moment, we just move from belonging to behaving. I mark that moment as a discipleship because it's so open, it's so deep, and so real. And they know who am I, and they know where it's going to lead. And definitely, which we're seeing, always leads to salvation. Hospitality, it's not just a social niceness, okay? But it's a profound spiritual practice. And this is what I found very interesting when I started doing more and more research. It's not just, let's talk about hospitality because we got to talk about hospitality. It's not just one of the virtues the church needs to do. No, man, hospitality has a deep spiritual, just like I just showed you, that God, in first moment introducing himself, he decided to introduce himself to the act of hospitality and him as a host. That is a deep theological moment. You know, the hospitality it's when you go to the New Testament, it's so much connected to salvation. That is just, if you put those lenses, you can see that on every other place. You know, not just the ethical stuff, helping the saints, extending hospitality to the strangers, you know, be hospitable to one another without complaining. No. In New Testament, you have, when the legal expert asks Jesus, what shall I do to inherit eternal life? He tells him a story about the hospitality, about the injured traveler, and hospitality that was shown to him. It's almost like you can't separate those things. Forget about the theology and all that. If you actually, it's deeply rooted in this kind of acts. Book's Acts, hospitality towards the apostles, represent acceptance of apostolic messages, inclusion into people of God. It's being hospitable to the apostles. You know, you receive their message. It's so closely connected to the message and inclusion of people of God. If you are a person of God, a people of God, the members of the people of God, hospitality is just a normal thing for you. James says that Rahab, the prostitute, or whatever her name is, also justified by works when she welcomed the messengers. So when she showed the hospitality to the messengers, that was the act of salvation to her. Galatians 2, Paul says to Peter to not act inconsistent with the truth of the gospel. You know, and the reason for that is he didn't want to sit with some people and eat. He was afraid of that. Just so you can't have justification if you cannot share the table with the people. So it's a way deeper than just let's add hospitality on the list of our church. It's a way deeper. And for me, it's a going back in Eden and rethink from that starting point. What does it mean that for my culture? What does that mean in Serbia? Yes, Serbia. Yeah, we know we hospital, but there is a wrong reasons why we do that. We are afraid of the shame, and we want to show the honor, you know, so people can praise us. So how do I do that so people don't praise me but praise God? How do I connect? Yeah, I'm a son of God, and this hospitality is the name, is the family name, and runs deeper to my God, who look how hospitable He was in the beginning. How do I do that? How do I create transformational environment, Eden, the garden, extend, co-work with God, creating the Garden of Edens all around, in my home, in my church, so that transformation happens again and again. How do I change the identity of the strangers when they come? Who are the strangers among us? It's not just my friends who comes and say, wow, great food. Let's have merak and remember that forever in the glory of Vlada. But actually the people who are strangers, that once when I receive them, they honor God because of that. And their identities change, and they find their place. And they find that lost relationships that once they had, now they're lost, and now they're regained through my hospitality.